Well, we were watching the Four Nations from the TD Garden in Boston last week and went, hey, that sounds like a familiar voice.
Everybody was saying that.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Rogers PA man Al Murdoch also does all the big NHL events, the Winter Classic, the Stadium Series, and there he was front and center for a best on best international tournament, and he joins us now from his lower mainland home. How you doing, Al?
I am great. Still trying to come down from. I actually don't want to come down from the of last week. It was so grateful. Let me just say right off the bat how grateful I am for these opportunities and good fortune to be part of these NHL events. And who knew before the Four Nations was going to start what it would end up being? And man, what a week it was.
Up until now, wars have not had PA announcers.
They haven't. No.
Did you sort of feel like you were doing that? Like recommissioning, reimagining the War of 1812 with a PA announcer?
Well, it was interesting because as one of the very few Canadian members of our crew, I was hearing it all around me. And, and it was exciting. It was fun to be a part of. Now, when it got down to the game and once we got started, you kind of lose that and you've got a job to do. And then once we saw what happened, what a game. It could have gone either way in overtime. It went Canada's way. I'm happy about that being a Canadian. But I'll be honest with you, as an impartial PA announcer, a part of this international tournament, I have to be impartial. And I hope I made those goal calls as even as I possibly could. It was in Boston, so I had to pump up the United States ones just a little bit more because it was in Boston in the United States. But that Connor McDavid goal call in overtime, it was through the roof for sure.
Have you done best on best international hockey in the past, Al?
Yeah, World Juniors was here in Vancouver 2019, and that was memorable as well. Obviously, a lot more teams, a lot more names to to figure out. Best part about this one is I knew all of the players, so that was a bonus because the World Juniors you got to figure out how to pronounce a whole bunch of names of players that may or may not be moving on to that next stage. Right?
Wait, so I gotta say Yvonne 3 times? Yvonne.
Yeah, well, it was great because back then we had Kirill Schlepitz of Russia. We had, of course, Capo Caco, which ended up being a household name now. But we had a bunch of names that you kind of had to go through and go, okay. I literally went to the Swedish coach as he walked by the PA perch up there at Rogers Arena, and I just recognized him and said, hey, do you have 30 seconds to help me out? And he was fantastic. So thank you again for that.
What was it like, Al, being in those two cauldrons for Canada and the United States? Talk us through your
Montreal and Boston, both spectacular
absolutely.
Stadiums.
Well, I must say that I wasn't part of the Boston games, the Montreal games. The great Michel Lacroix, who I revere among PA announcers in all of sports, was there. And, he did such an amazing job. I respect him so much. And watching those games, I flew into Boston and got into the hotel. And as I was checking in, the game had already started between Canada and the U.S. And I was looking, if you know the hotel in Boston that I stayed at, you check in and you can kind of look up and they've got a restaurant up there with a bunch of monitors. So the guy was asking me for my credit card and I was going, hang on, I got to see the third fight. So, and of course I immediately rushed upstairs, threw my bag in, went down to the bar restaurant. And again, I was probably the only Canadian in that bar, sitting by myself, having dinner with all of this chants of USA, USA. So that prelude to the final, I knew what I was getting into. And I was so excited about being part of that. And then when it finally came, the doors opened, the chants started, USA. And then the Canadian representation with all of the red in there as well was amazing because they were as loud as they could be. They were drowned out a little bit by USA, but it was just a great representation of all of the countries that participated. So when you got Sweden, you got Finland, you got the United States, you got Canada, and their respective nations and their fans cheering them on and wanting them, to win, win so bad. it was just a feeling that you just felt right here every game. It was wonderful.
Games of it, like you've done a lot of the fun stuff, as Matt outlined at the beginning there, the Winter Classics and all that sort of stuff. But they're not games of import. The 2 points are just 2 points on any given night. But I mean, you think back to 2011 and playoff games for the Canucks in general. Pretty amped up, but this has to be at the top of the list in terms of like having to calm yourself down for announcements.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing, was you have to be impartial, but of course it was the final game, so we have rehearsals, we have meetings, we have chats about, and of course I asked them, what kind of delivery do you want? And when we got to the final game, all of the eyes, not only from diehard hockey fans, but the new fans, the new people that had never watched. So we wanted to give them the best show that we possibly could as a game presentation team. And I think we did. I really think we did. There was a lot of stuff, of course, that you never saw on TV that we did within the arena. But I'm just so grateful to be a part of that. It is the highlight of my PA career so far, for sure.
Tell us, because a lot of us were celebrating. There was a bit of euphoria after Connor McDavid scores, but your duties during the medal ceremonies and the trophy presentation. Take us through that, Al.
Well, after those amazing saves by Binnington, and you just your mouth was dropping. Everybody in the in our crew, and the interesting thing is that I had the Swedish play-by-play group right beside me. And so I had them for all of the games in Boston, and they were going crazy, and everybody else was going crazy. And me, I had to make sure, okay, David got the goal. Who got the assist? Was it Marner? Okay, was there a second assist? So I'm not jumping up for joy. I'm getting ready to make that goal call when we are able to do it, because we want to let everything sink in. We want to have the crowd, going crazy. So I was concentrating on that, and of course concentrating on all of my duties for post game. So once I announced the goal, crowd went crazy. Then there was a little bit of a pause. Then we had to go through, the medal ceremony, which was wonderful, because then I got to announce every single, representative from Canada. Would have done the same if it was the United States, and would have given it the same amount of enthusiasm as if they would have won. And then we get to the trophy presentation and then the anthem. So, I really can't describe it in words. It was just a memorable experience for sure.
Gold medal, Sidney Crosby.
Wow.
Sounds pretty good, huh?
Wow.
Lastly from me, buddy.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a JT Miller point somewhere in Boston so we could hear it maybe one last time. JT Miller. It had become a thing. And the last time we talked to you, Al, we talked to you about this and how much fun the crowd at Rogers Arena was having announcing the JT Miller goals and points alongside you. Would you have given it the Rogers Arena JT Miller zest there in Boston? Because I guess he can't do it again, right, when he comes back for the Rangers.
Absolutely, 100%. I would have done that. And again, we had discussions about it. And it was like, absolutely, you've got to do it, because you would hope that it carries on. Wherever in New York now or wherever he ends up, you would hope that kind of would carry on. And he had a few opportunities. I wouldn't have done it on an assist, maybe, but if he would have scored, I certainly would have leaned into that a little bit more.
You must be feeling like your voice is more full these days. The Canucks are only scoring 2 goals per game. They're not taxing you too much on the microphone.
Yeah,
no comment.
He does the penalties too.
Listen, I mean, again, my you guys, I've mentioned this to you guys before. And my first job is to inform. My second job is to entertain. I've got to get in there. I've got to do it. And the more goals they score, obviously, the more fun I'm going to have as well, because I'm with the fans. But I'm always optimistic before every game. I have to be. So I'm looking forward to them coming off this road trip in that first week of March, getting back into that PA perch at Rogers Arena.
There you go.
Well, it was awesome having a familiar voice and a great guy behind the voice for the Four Nations. Al, you've always been amazing with us. Thank you for this, my friend. Welcome home.
Yes.
And look forward to hearing you at
Thanks, Al.
Rogers Arena.
I always appreciate your support, guys. Thanks so much.